Hey Lunchmates, and welcome back to the fourth and sort of final, not final in terms of the whole series, but final in terms of the timeline episode of the Faz-eteria room. Here we got Daniel and Alec, and we've covered so far the death of Charlie Emily in the late 70s and early 80s. Crying Child seeing this and eventually dying to the bite of 1983 when his brother Michael Afton lifted him up and unfortunately got him chomped. Later, Charlie inhabits the puppet, and William decides to figure out how this was done and starts looking into Remnant. This Remnant revelation leads William to start stuffing children into suits, mainly the missing children's incident in 1985, where 5 children were led into the back room and stuffed into the animatronic suits. This prompts him to create the sister location animatronics with their exclusive purpose to harvest children and collect more Remnant. Unfortunately, William's own daughter, Elizabeth, dies to Circus Baby on the very first day, and all those animatronics are decommissioned and put deep underground. William tells Michael to go underground to find his own answers about what might have happened to Elizabeth and maybe some more family secrets. Michael goes down there and unfortunately ends up acting as a skin suit for the amalgamation that is entered with Elizabeth's soul inside to escape into the surface. Now, neither Ennard nor Michael ends up dying from this, and both walk away unscathed later on. This leads us to Fnaf 2, with the bite of 87 and 5 more potential murders by Afton, who's had to resort to his old ways to get the Remnant that he needs. This whole debacle leads William to have to go back to the original location when the withered animatronics are brought back to the location from 1985 so he can harvest that leftover Remnant for his experiments. And here in the back room is when all the furious souls corner him. He has to run into the spring-locked suit of Golden Bonnie, and here is when he dies. Or so we thought. So, Alec, you want to lead this off?
I would be happy to, my guy. So here we are, the next significant part of the timeline in Fnaf 1. And the date that we have presumably figured out is 1993. So you have the bite of 87, and then everything that happens after that, as you mentioned before in the recap. And now we're here in the first Freddy Fazbear's games that was released in 2014. That date is 1993. Here we are as Michael Afton. Now, where we left off with Michael Afton is that he was basically a walking, soulless shell of a skin suit, just kind of walking around. But what's been happening now is that Michael is kind of going after and cleaning up his dad's misdeeds. So starts applying to various Freddy Fazbear's locations. And the one location that we play as him is in Fnaf 1. There's not much to it about the game itself, you know. We know this classic game, the one that started it all, going through the whole security guards, playing till 6 a.m., close those doors, watch out for Chica in the kitchen. Yeah, we got this. But the thing
Making a
to know,
sandwich, you know?
right? Yeah, making a sandwich. You know that you didn't you like what else is Chica doing? You know, and Freddy and Foxy coming in and spamming you at the door, and the nightmares. Anyways, so the one thing to look at this game is the paycheck that you get at the end. You actually get fired, and it says, I believe it's like tampering with animatronics, and also for odor. So this leads to the next significant part of the timeline nearly 30 years later.
Right. Now, 30 years is probably the biggest gap we have in this timeline. And as a fan base, we don't know really what's happening in these 20 years, or 30 years, sorry. But we do have an idea. So in FNAF 2, it's likely Michael Afton that is the security guard. And he's using Jeremy Fitzgerald as his name. Then FNAF 1 in 1993. This is him as Mike Schmidt. He's changing his name as he goes to various pizzerias and he's trying to fix mistakes caused by his father and continuously getting fired for freeing souls, essentially. He's tampering with animatronics that have been possessed by Remnant. Now, there was a bit of a debate, actually, about the year that FNAF 1 took place, and this affects the year that our next point takes place, which is FNAF 3. So I'm just going to run through it real quickly. Now, in FNAF 1, Fun Guy mentions that the animatronics are 20 years old. And this would kind of throw a wrench in things because FNAF 3 is obviously supposed to be 30 years in the future. And that would put the year 2033 as FNAF 3. And this is a little bit crazy because we know that Henry is alive at this point. And Henry, by this point, since back the start of the timeline was the 70s, where he was a young businessman, he would have been far too old to actually still be around actively doing things as of 2033. So Alec and I kind of assume that Phone Guy is exaggerating at this point. The animatronics aren't actually 20 years old. So 1993 is FNAF 1, putting FNAF 3 in 2023. So the future, past the whole, world pandemic thing. So during this 30 years, presumably Michael's been going from pizzeria to pizzeria, doing very good deeds, trying to atone for things. Now in 2023, he ends up as a night guard at Fazbear Fright. Now, this is a Five Nights at Freddy's, it's an attraction based off of Fazbear Entertainment's, checkered past and the rumors surrounding it. So, the character in that game over the phone is Phone Dude, and he tells you in Night 2 that they found an old animatronic from the original pizzeria, Five Nights at Freddy's 1, where the missing children's incident occurred, and where Springtrap had been boarded up. And now this animatronic is in your facility. So this is the big reuniting moment between Michael Afton and William Afton, as Michael, the night guard, and William, the animatronic, are duking it out. See who's going to survive longer. So in this game, we find that William didn't really die. He's sort of in the same situation as Michael in the sense that he is, for all intents and purposes, dead. But his body continues to survive in the animatronic, so he's angry and he's trying to get to you. And by the end of it, we find out that Michael has burned Fazbear Fright to the ground, trying to purge Springtrap, aka Michael's own father. And obviously, as we find out later, he was unsuccessful. He didn't end up getting burned, but also neither did Springtrap, who survives until the next encounter. So that brings us to the next and probably it actually had a very beautiful moment at the end of the game. Pizzeria Simulator. Alec, you want to tackle this one?
What happens is Henry Emily, the father of Charlie Emily, has been working away and devising a plan to finally catch up to his old working partner. He creates kind of like a fake Freddy Fazbear's location. It's kind of like a stage play so that he can lure everything, all the animatronics, get William Afton over here, get Michael Afton, everything, so he can be done with it and kind of lure them all here so he can get rid of them once and for all, to get rid of this horrendous past that he unfortunately had to deal with his whole life. You're also playing as Michael Afton. So after the events of FNAF 3, Michael basically gets hired by Henry and kind of works with him to kind of help. You're basically helping Henry bring all the old animatronics in to basically destroy them once and for all. You're tasked with buying and basically building up your pizzeria, and your job is to claim salvage as animatronics are being delivered at the door, or sorry, not the door, in the back alley, and basically your job is to analyze them to see if they're in working order. The correct way to do this is kind of making sure you do accept them and let them in. Unfortunately, when you let them in, you obviously know that it's going to be high liability and high risk, and yeah, they're going to come after you in the middle of the night, but that's part of the plan.
Yeah, up to this point, Michael has freed the souls of every animatronic throughout the timeline except for Charlie, who's in the puppet. The Funtime animatronics, who are Ennard and Baby. Now, Ennard and Baby have since split up because Elizabeth's soul is apparently very incompatible with the others. We know Baby to be manipulative and sadistic in a way, so likely her personality caused her to split. So we got them as two separate animatronics now. And also we have Afton as Springtrap still roaming around.